Okay, first of all, thanks for having me today. I'll start by wanting to wish our cross-country team, our men and women's cross-country team, the very best this weekend as they prepare and start their championship run of their cross-country season. So Coach Chapman and his staff have done a tremendous job, and so I just want to wish them the very best as they start the championship part of the season. In terms of this year for our indoor season, we're very excited to get going. We have an incredible group of young returners with some experience, but we have a pretty good first-year class as well. It takes some time for them to transition over, but we're excited for them to be kind of interconnected with our returner. Goals for the year never change. We expect to win, conference championship, and we expect to be a top 4 team nationally, both indoor and outdoor. So those goals always stay the same and never change. We fell short last year in terms of those goals on the national level. Obviously, we were able to achieve maybe not our best, what we consider our best from a conference standpoint, but, either, putting ourselves in a position to win the conference or conference runner-up. But we expect to win the conference championships. And so we expect to get back in that position to win the conference championship on both the men and the women's side. And then, again, like I said, finish in the top 4 and trophy on both the men and women's side. Expectations, it will always be held high with all of my colleagues in this department, and so we're going to continue to have high expectations of our student athletes and how we're expected to perform at the national championships, which last year I felt like we had a lot of success, but we also we fell short in some areas. And I think on the men's side, I think part of that reason why is the stress of trying to defend a championship or the expectation of going into the national championship, being number 1 in the country. And I think not that us coaches said anything, I just think the young men felt the pressure that they had to win it. And so we've been able to talk through that, and we're going to focus on taking one day at a time and not getting ahead of ourselves throughout the course of the year and definitely throughout the championship part of the season. So I'm not one that likes to talk about a lot of individuals just because you can't win a championship with just one individual or 2 individuals. So I'm mindful of that. This is a team sport, although a lot of people look at track and field as an individual sport. All the 9 national championships we won, 8 women and 1 on the men's side, has been done because we had a true team represented at the national championships and the conference championships to win. So I'm going to be mindful that every last one of our throwers, jumpers, sprinters, hurdlers, distance runners is important in order for us to achieve that level of success. So,
you talk about indoor track and field. We think about outdoor, and we understand the challenges involved in that, but what are some unique challenges for indoor track and field that aren't really considered by the casual observer?
That's a great question. Part of the challenge from an indoor standpoint is that, for example, at a national meet is a 3-day national meet. You have a little bit more recovery time. Indoor nationals is a 2-day national meet, and you don't have a lot of recovery time. Now, at some point, I hope that we can transition from Division III to be what Division I is, because Division I is a 3-day national meet. So us coaches at the Division III level feels like that gives our student athletes the recovery that they need and they deserve. So that's one of the challenges. One of the other challenges I would say indoors is the fact that a 200-meter track is a little bit different than a 400-meter track, right? And so a 400 outdoors is 1 lap. A 400 indoors is 2 laps. And so there is some strategy in terms of wanting to be first, coming off the cut, and not getting boxed in. And if you transition that over from a sprint race, can you imagine an 800 or a mile? All right, because in the 800 indoors or a mile, if you get boxed in, they're not going to let you out. So there's some challenges that goes with our distance races as well from a strategy standpoint. But then there's some exciting things. Our sprinters love the fact that they can start off their competitive schedule in their year. For example, instead of running the 110 highs, the guys are running the 60 and the women are running the 60-meter hurdles. That's 5 hurdles versus 10, and so kind of helps them get in the rhythm. The 200 is somewhat a challenge as well, just because you never want the inside lanes. You want to be on the outside lanes. Just from a standpoint if the curves are tight, depending on what institution you're at, what facility. The other transition, sometimes it's difficult indoors, is the fact that this year we're at the Sportsplex in Alabama, which is a bank track. Well, there's only one bank track in the state of Iowa, and that's at the University of Iowa. And so we have to try to position ourselves to put our student athletes, especially our top student athletes who will compete in the national meet, on a bank track. So if you look at our schedule, we're taking some of our top-end athletes to Boston because that's one of the best bank tracks in the country, and it allows them to get on a track, bank track, before we compete at the national meet. And we're also are excited. A year ago, Iowa allowed us to come in and take some of our top athletes there to a bank track. So we're excited to try to get some of our student athletes on the bank facility before the national championship. So that's a challenge because a flat track is much different than a bank track. So from a standpoint of bank track, a few years ago, I think it was back in 2013, 2014, Libby, who was a national champion outdoors in the 200, she got DQ'd in the 200 just because she couldn't handle that bank, and coming off of it so fast she couldn't control her speed, and she ended up coming out of her lane and got DQ'd. Well, that was the first time she had ever been on the bank track. So we learned from that, so I think that's one of the challenges as well.
With your track preseason underway, but then like you said, cross country is in their season, how does that balance work, or when does cross country transition into track?
One of the things we've always taken a lot of pride is that when you're in your season, you're in your season, and we want our cross country team to focus on winning a national title, and so they slowly transition over once cross is over with. We typically at times, Grand Valley has a really big meet that a lot of cross-country distance kids go to. Sometimes we talk about allowing our student athletes to be in that meet coming out of cross-country, but a lot of times some of them just need a break. And so they're transitioning in right after the first year. One of the tough challenges for our distance runners is they don't take a lot of time off, That's just their nature, right? I mean, for them to take time off is like, it's hard for them to do. So you have to respect that work ethic that they have. But a lot of times as coaches too, we want them to have a feel for what's best for them and their bodies before they transition over to the indoor track season.
You kind of talked about Iowa and Boston, but you have a number of Division II and Division I meets also on your schedule. What are the goals for those competitions?
The great thing about our sport is week in and week out, you're going to run against another student athlete, another institution with a different name on their jersey. Anytime we can challenge our student athletes to compete against the best in our sport, and that's what track and field allows us to do. Us coaches around the country, colleagues, we respect each other and what one another have achieved, and giving our student athletes an opportunity to compete against some of the best people in the state and best people in the country. That's what we need to do, which prepares us for a national championship run.